Okay, just a quick and dirty look at nutrition, since this is inevitably going to come up with just about all of your clients. And just a really quick caveat, depending on where you are in the world, but especially the United States, you can actually write out nutrition programs for your clients. But it really depends state to state. Some states completely disallow it. Other states will say that you can call yourself a nutritionist. Anybody can call themselves a nutritionist and can write nutrition plans. But again, just be very careful of this. It's very state to state dependent. And also, if someone has any sort of medical condition like diabetes or anything like that, stay away from writing any sort of nutrition plan because it could be misconstrued as medical advice, which will get you sued. So do not do that. Anyways, just a real quick and high level look that is going to have 90% is going to provide 90% of the benefits of nutrition to just about 90% of your clients, because if you can get them to stick to this stuff, they are going to make incredible progress. And I listed protein here in first because if your clients are getting enough protein throughout the day, it's automatically going to fix so many things when it comes to their food, because their blood sugar is going to be more stable, they're getting more consistent energy throughout the day, and they're not going to have as many cravings, they're going to be much more full. So protein by and far is the biggest impact that you can have on a client's weight loss journey, or even if they want to get bigger too. Protein is the single most important thing about the nutrition that they can get, that you can influence. Now again, overall calories is really the most important. However, protein is the lowest effort that will provide the most amount of changes to your clients. So this is why I listed protein here first. And I just listed here point 8 and point 1 because for most of your clients, they want about 80% to 100% of their body weight in grams of protein a day. So it's very simple. A 250-pound person wants about 200 to 250 grams per day. A 200-pound person with about 160 to 200 grams per day. 150-pound person and a 100-pound person, and so on and so forth. You can you can kind of like fill in the rest depending on where that client weighs, how much they weigh. This is just on the caveat that the person is at about the weight that they should be or that they want to be. If someone is extremely overweight, like let's just say a 250-pound person is 50 pounds overweight, and a healthy weight for them, a good weight for them is 200 pounds. You want to use 200 as the target, not 250, because then they're getting a bunch of protein that they don't really need to, and it just makes things a little bit more difficult than it needs to be. As far as protein as well, you could get over this 200, or excuse me, you could get over this 80% to 100% mark. If you want to do 125%, or if the client wants to do that, that's totally fine too. And it could be beneficial, especially if someone is really interested in weight loss, because again, it is much more filling. It's going to keep your metabolism that much higher because it costs a lot of energy to break protein down in the body. So there's really nothing wrong with going over 100%. But just again, the caveat is it's probably not that much of a big benefit for the relatively average adult person. It's going to be much more important for someone who is pretty fit and they already have a pretty low fat body fat percentage, and they're trying to get even lower, like someone who's at like 10% that's trying to get down to single digits. That's going to be much more important for them to get higher amounts of protein just to maintain as much muscle mass as possible. So 80% to 100%, if they got like 70%, that'd be fine too, but 80 to 100% is a really good target to shoot for. And again, just aiming for that person's, or do not do it on a person's weight if they're severely overweight or if they have like a target in mind. Like again, if someone's 150 pounds, they weigh 100 pounds, you just want to use 100 pounds. And if 100 pounds is a realistic weight as well, kind of bear that in mind. You as a professional has to kind of help steer people in the right direction. If you got like, I typically see a lot with females. Like I've had a 5'7" woman who weighed 130 pounds and she was struggling to lose weight. I'm like, yeah, you're struggling to lose weight because you don't have any weight to lose. You have no muscle. We need to build muscle for you. You don't need to worry about fat loss. You need to build muscle. So again, that all comes into play as well. But once they hit the protein target, once a client's been doing that very consistently, that's really going to take care of a lot of things automatically. As I said, it really has the biggest impact on a lot of things without like worrying about anything else. Now you can obviously take this a step further. It's something I did for some of my clients, but as I've gotten more in my career, a lot more of my clients don't really care too much about their daily calorie intake. They don't care to track it that much, because I don't personally care to track it that much myself either. So I'm not really going to get that many clients that want to do that. And but again, it could be very different on your client subset. If you want to have that much, or if you want to go a little bit more in depth with them, it's totally fine. It's a very viable option. Counting calories works. I mean, it's been proven over and over and over again. So when it comes to calories, you have kind of a range. If someone wants to lose weight, you want to start at about 12 times their body weight. If they need to maintain their weight, they can start at about 15 times their body weight. And if they want to gain weight, then they want to start at about 18 times their body weight. And again, this is just a starting point. You could go to somewhere like tdeecalculator.net. I'll pull this up right now, actually. tdeecalculator.net. I have it saved. And you could actually, kind of fill this stuff in for your clients or fill it in for yourself if you wanted to, and kind of get the calorie intake required for somebody. But this is pretty close. It's going to give you a very similar number that the calculator there would give you. And even the calculator is just a starting point. So everything's just a starting point. And this is really, really important for someone who's trying to lose weight. You got to say, like, we're just starting here. Like, it could be too high and they need to actually cut down a few more 100 calories or whatever calories. Or it could be too low, like they're losing like 10 pounds a week and they're starving all the time. They're really angry all the time. And that could be too low. It's like, okay, we can bump up the calories a little bit more. So treat this all as kind of like it really is just testing things out and seeing what works. But again, once you get the protein, that's a huge one. And then get the calories if you want to take it one step further. And if you want to take it even further from there for carbs and fats, and that really is your brand and you're really diving into that, especially with like people like maybe who are bodybuilders or something like that, that's totally cool. However, just so you're aware, once you control for protein and calories, it literally does not matter what your carbs and fats are in regards to weight loss. Now, you will, of course, have some people who do a lot better on higher carb and like a lower amount of fat. And then you have people who do a lot better with a higher amount of fat and a lower amount of carb. But when it comes to actually programming those macronutrients, carbs and fats, it doesn't matter once you control for protein and calories. It's been shown in several studies. Control for protein and calories, it doesn't matter what the split of carbs and fats are. Now, again, it's really going to depend on that person. Like maybe they're a little bit more of a distance runner, then they're probably going to want some more carbs. It's going to help them feel a little bit better, probably for their longer runs. But again, it really just depends on that person. Another quick thing to look at too is just various diets. Like intermittent fasting is a big one, the zone diet, keto, whatever. There's millions of diets and whatever kind of plans out there. And there really is no magic behind any of them. The only thing that diets do is create a set of rules that make it relatively easy for someone to be into a calorie deficit. Again, I'm talking from a stance of weight loss, since most of our clients are going to be weight loss clients. But again, every single diet just creates a set of rules that makes it easy to be in a calorie deficit so long as you stick to those rules. So keto cuts out carbs completely. So if you cut out 1/3 of the macronutrients, it's going to make it easier to be in a calorie deficit. Intermittent fasting cuts out 1 or 2 meals a day. So you're only eating once or twice per day. So it's going to make it easier to be in a calorie deficit. And so on and so forth. So that's the biggest benefit of just about every diet out there. So they can all work, and there's really nothing inherently wrong with them. There's also nothing inherently right about any of them. It really just depends on the person and their lifestyles and what works for them. For instance, I love intermittent fasting personally. It makes it very easy for me to control weight if I'm or drop some weight if I'm looking to do that. And I've done intermittent fasting for over 10 years, and just this past year I've switched to more of just a normal eating style, just to kind of change things up. And I was a little bit more interested in increasing my strength at this point. And intermittent fasting is not the best for increasing strength, but it really isn't that bad. Again, speaking for the average person, I'm still a relatively average person when it comes to training and everything like that. So I could keep intermittent fasting. It wouldn't really have that many detrimental effects to me as like a relatively average person. Now, if I was a higher level athlete, a higher level powerlifter, or Olympic weightlifter, or something like that, probably wouldn't make the most amount of sense, because we're trying to maintain amino acid pool. We're trying to maintain constant protein synthesis throughout the entire day. But I digress a little bit. So keto is another really good example. Lots of people do great on keto. They love it. After they go through that transition to where their body switches to ketones instead of glucose, they can maintain that lifestyle for the rest of their lives. And there's people who do the carnivore diet where they only eat meat. And I think the guy who kind of made this rather famous has been doing it for 6 years, and like he's fine. His blood levels are totally fine. So they're totally viable approaches. But again, just a great example is the carnivore diet. I tried the carnivore diet. I didn't even last a month. I couldn't do it. Like my wife was like, "We're gonna have steak for dinner tonight," and I like almost threw up in my mouth because I was like, I could not bear the idea of having another piece of meat for dinner. So really, every single diet will work for clients so long as they can stick to that lifestyle. So again, keto is not something I'll ever stick to because I like beer, and I'm not going to give up beer out of my diet just to be and lose a little bit more weight. And a lot of clients will actually fail something like keto because they can't live that lifestyle, and then they'll blame themselves rather than saying, oh, this just didn't work for me. So just be cognizant of that. And if a client brings up the idea of some sort of diet to you, try and approach it with the open mind, and asking them the questions like, do you think this is actually going to help? Can you actually sustain this long term? Do you think, is this just a fad idea? Don't say that to them because then you're going to be challenging them. But again, just kind of showing them that anything can work. You can eat 6 times per day. You can eat once per day. It literally does not matter. As long as you control for calories and protein, you're going to be totally fine. So again, whenever clients bring up diets or you bring up diets to clients, it really just depends on that person and their lifestyles and can they sustain it long term.